on campus there. For me, what that looked like was going to community college for longer than I had to. I was also working at the time, so I not only had to do school, I had to balance that with work to, do simple life things like pay my rent, pay my cell phone bill, pay my internet bill, things that I sort of took for granted living with my parents because they handled all those expenses. So that extended the amount of time that I was actually in school pursuing a degree. But eventually, and California actually has a very good handle on the community college to four-year university sort of pipeline. They make it very easy to transfer. Eventually, I transferred to San Diego State, and I got my bachelor's degree in political science. That, it could have been done for most college students in about 4 years. For me, it took about 6.5. But again, I was working the entire time, and I was getting good experience in the field. I was meeting people in my profession. I was picking their brains. I was trying to build, a group of people who would advocate for me. Throughout middle school, high school, college, or whatever you end up doing after high school, you'll find that your circle of advocates will grow. So for now, you have Miss Wright on your team. You may have your parents, siblings, extended family. But as you continue getting older and gaining, educational experience, work experience, career experience, you start meeting more people who will be your advocate, who will push you to continue improving yourself, who will, when I was at San Diego State and applying to grad school, I had professors that I had to ask for letters of recommendation to get into grad school. Those were my advocates. You will keep meeting these people. The question of cost versus benefit. Well, look, college isn't cheap. You can't really dance around the subject there. But there are a lot of options for you, and there are a lot of people you can talk to figure out the best way to do it. I probably saved thousands of dollars by starting my bachelor's degree at a community college and then transferring to a four-year college. And some people ask, does that make your bachelor's degree worth any less? So when I graduated my bachelor's degree from San Diego State, it said bachelor's degree, San Diego State University, not bachelor's degree, San Diego State University via Grossmont College. So at the end of the day, the actual diploma that you're getting is the same as if you went to a four-year university right off the bat. There are plenty of financial aid options. Obviously, loans are the most, it's not really a source of financial aid, but that's how you will pay if all else fails for college. But there are plenty of grants, scholarships. The Pell Grant is an important resource for a lot of college students. It's a federal grant. It can help you pay for tuition, for housing, any expense basically that you would need for school. And when you do graduate, there are a lot of repayment options. I mean, you can, if you're getting a federal student loan, you can choose a payment plan that is proportional to your income at the time. So if you're making, $15 an hour to pay your student loans, they may only require a monthly payment of a small portion of that. So there are plenty of repayment options you can look into. But the road to success, there are plenty of roads to success, and they don't all go through a traditional four-year university. You may be interested in trade schools, vocational programs. Some of you may join the military and use your GI benefits to go to college at no cost to you after you leave the military. Some of you may want to start a business. You may go into the nonprofit sector. There are so many options to success for you out there. But the most important component is finding what you're passionate about, what you care about, because you're only going to enjoy your success if you're doing something that is meaningful at the end of the day. And I'm very lucky to do something that I like doing. I like where I work. I like who I work with, and I like the experiences that I receive at the end of the day. And I've been very lucky and fortunate to have, so many advocates on my behalf. The question of being a first-generation college student, I'm a first-generation college student. My parents didn't go to college. Their parents didn't go to college. I think most of my aunts and uncles didn't go to college. It can seem a little strange when you're going, because you go home at the end of the day after class, and maybe your parents or your siblings, your extended family, your guardians, if they haven't gone to college, they might not have a shared experience that you have to talk to you about your day. They might not know what it's like to go to the bookstore or look for snacks between classes, or how to register for classes. So there can be a little bit of awkwardness off the bat. And in the beginning, you're going to have to be your own advocate. You're going to have to seek out resources in college to help you kind of succeed. Your counselors, the administration officials at colleges, the faculty heads in each department. There are so many resources, financial, educational, in every aspect of your life all around you that you can lean on. And then eventually, once you find your success as you define it in your life, and you achieve that happiness, you can then go back and be that advocate for someone else. So I think that's my spiel. And I guess it's question time. I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
It's frozen.
Okay. I hear you now.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right. So, you're starting to get questions in the chat, so you can just answer them as they come in.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Looking for the chat.
It's the little, like, it looks like a little, like, speech bubble. So when you're looking at the meeting navigation, you can see the raised hand sign, the chat bubble. Do you see the chat bubble?
I see the chat bubble, but I click it and I only see recent chats that I've done for work.
Oh, you don't see the meeting chat?
I don't see the meeting chat. I guess all I can see is the actual video. Wait, nope. I don't see the meeting chat.
Okay, so because it looks like a little toolbar. It's on the bar where you can see the hang up the phone sign, and then the little icon that looks like people. Do you see? There's a one where you click to screen share.
I see. Okay. Well, I see all the participants.
Yeah. So
if you says chat in channel meetings is only available to team members, so maybe I'm not on the team.
Oh, okay. So I will have to read them to you.
Okay.
All right. So this is a question from Mia de la Torre. What do you recommend for us in the future / high and then parenthetically high school / college?
Well, thank you for the question. It's a fairly open-ended question, so I think the answer is probably also a choose your own adventure story in a way. In the future, in the next 4 years, I would say keep an open mind, look for new experiences, play a sport, go watch movies, get into the arts, learn about what's going on in the world, get involved in government, find a hobby, an activity, and talk to people, meet new friends. And you'll find that just by simply living and going through, the motions of life and pursuing things that you're interested in, you'll get ideas. My dad started a business. He didn't go to college, and now he's doing all right. That's his success. I went to college after several years, and now I like what I do. That's my success. But all of these, every motivation that you'll have to pursue something, to learn a new skill, a new anything in the world of your success or educational goals, that's just going to come from living, and it's going to come from keeping an open mind and always being ready to experience new things.
Thank you. Evelyn has a question. Do you have any suggestions for people who want to go with a career as a pharmacist, or recommend any schools after high school?
I don't have any specific recommendations for pharmacy school, but in a way, becoming a pharmacist is similar to becoming a political scientist. You have to first determine that you're interested in that, and then you have to do what you have to do to become an expert in your field. And for pharmacists, for pharmacy school, that's what you're going to have to do. I don't know many people who are pharmacists. I have a friend who went to Drake University in Iowa, and now he's a head pharmacist, and he's making great money. But there are countless pharmacy schools out there, and you can research them on your own through their website. A lot of colleges, even before before the COVID pandemic, were offering virtual tours. You can learn about campus life and how you might fit in or what you need to prepare yourself for. So whether you're pursuing pharmacy school, a degree in English, a degree in political science, or sports medicine, there are programs out there for you to continue growing in those areas.
I would add on to that in general, pharmacy, dentistry, and medical school, like the path for undergrads is virtually the same, because like pre-dental, pre-med, pre-pharma is pretty much all the same thing. So that's going to look different depending on what school that you're going to. The way that path worked at Notre Dame, which is where I did my undergrad, was they had a major that was called science pre-professional or arts and letters pre-professional. So that meant that you have to take certain classes to be prepared for that graduate education, which includes Calc 1, Calc 2, organic chemistry, biophysio, all those sort of basic, like big building block science classes. And then the way Notre Dame handled it is it made people choose like an actual something to study as an undergrad, whether that be anthropology or sociology or theology or Spanish or like biology, so that you kind of developed some sort of an interest that showed something about who you are that you could bring into that professional school. So that's kind of something to think about too. Like, it would be super cool to pair, those science classes with doing more Spanish literature, something like that, to build on, the bilingualism you already have. And that would, in a way, like set you apart from other candidates. Okay. Brian Grove asks, what would be a good time to start thinking about my future in terms of schooling now? Also, how's quarantine treating you?
I'll answer the second part of the question first, because it's, I guess, easier to answer. Quarantine is treating me great. I'm very fortunate to have a job that I can do remotely. My job in normal times is kind of always on. I go everywhere with 2 cell phones, because I work in a very, I work with the media, and news doesn't stop. We may be asleep at 1 a.m, but news is still happening all over the world, because when we're asleep, someone else is awake and time continues marching on. The first part of the question, when you should start thinking about your future, is yesterday, right now. It seems silly, and I don't blame you. When I was in 8th grade, I was interested in like the next Xbox game coming out 2 weeks from now, and that was as far into my future as I really looked into. You don't have to make a decision of the trajectory of your life or where you're going to go right now, but you should be mindful of what you want to do in the future. 4 years goes by very quickly. The older you get, the faster 4 years seems to go by. So before you know it, you'll be ready to leave high school. Before even your senior year, you'll probably be applying to colleges. Sooner than that, you may be taking exams like the SAT or the ACT. So realistically, within the next 2 years, you could be making the opening moves for what you're doing after high school. So it's always, even after college, you can get a PhD, your doctorate. You should still be thinking about your future. I mean, if you go to college for 8 years, you leave at 26 or 27 years old, you still got a lot of life left to live. So whether your future includes education, entrepreneurship, vocational school, whatever, it's a good time always to be thinking about it.
Thanks. Alicia asks, how long did it take you to find a stable job after you graduated?
Whew. Well, good question. I guess the definition of stable job is a little different for everybody. After college, I immediately went to work on a presidential campaign in Iowa. Was that stable? By nature, they're not stable. They only last for, a month, 2 months. Nobody ever knows how long they're going to be employed in that field. But moving to Washington, D.C., where the actual career portion of my life began, I started interning. I was an intern in my field, and that's where I started making the connections. Now, internships are very important. You do get a lot of experience, but they can be very hard to make work, particularly if you don't come from a family that can support you financially. So I was interning here, an unpaid internship. I was taking 6 units in graduate school to get my master's degree. And I was also working as a barista at Starbucks at nighttime so that I can continue to fund my life to, get the experience that I wanted. Once I finished my internship, it was about a 5 or 6 month internship. I had made enough connections. I had many conversations. I had gotten the advice from probably a dozen different people in my field, just through networking, just having conversations over coffee or lunch, or finding out what their road to success looked like, and trying to figure out if mine could look the same, or what portions of their road to success I want to emulate in my own career path. So, it'll be different for everybody. A lot of college programs will put you into an internship just as part of the program, and that certainly helps once you graduate. But again, it really all depends on the field, and at different times, particularly now, like Miss Wright said at the beginning, there are different industries and different fields that may have more jobs in them at one time and then may have fewer jobs. For example, not a great time to be a journalist right now, but there are still people in journalism school who will have to be considering how they'll make it work after they graduate. And that college degree is just more tickets in that raffle. There's no guarantees you'll be successful, but you want to equip yourself with as many skills and tools as you can to help make it happen.
One thing I will add on to that, like keeping with that metaphor of a college degree, like giving you more raffle tickets into the prize of having financial stability, and beyond just financial stability, like having joy and satisfaction in work. I would say that one advantage of having a degree that's, say, like in arts and letters, like humanities or something like that, is it's a more versatile ticket. The difference between like a trade school and getting your bachelor's degree in something is that the bachelor's degree, because it's 4 years and it makes you kind of branch out and like learn things about different things, is it makes you like more qualified for different jobs, because it just shows that you can read, you can write, you can think, you can speak. And that's a lot of what people want in a job, regardless of what kind of company it is or whatever. Whereas if you say, go to school to become a mechanic, the only thing that can give you a ticket to is the job as a mechanic. That's it. Like, it's the one ticket. It's kind of like, it's only a certain kind of a tool. It's a screwdriver that looks like that kind. What is that called? Phillips? I don't know, because I didn't go to that kind of school. Clearly. So it's like this kind of screwdriver, and that's the only thing that it will. Whereas getting a bachelor's degree in some sort of humanities field is kind of a little bit more like getting Play-Doh, and then you can like make it into different things and kind of make it work a little bit. Next question. When Brianna asks, when you were younger, did you have any idea you would end up having this career?
No, I didn't. I don't know really what I want. I went through, phases that you go through when you're 7 or 8 years old. You want to be a firefighter, you want to be a police officer. Then, I for a moment in time, I wanted to teach history. But I gained that sort of experience that I didn't have before by branching out and saying, okay, I'm going to go try this thing in government, and we'll see if I like it. I liked it, and here I am. And I think you meet a lot of people out there who had no idea that the careers they have now, which they find to be very fulfilling, and they're successful and they can support themselves and a family. I think you'll find that a lot of them couldn't have foreseen where they'd end up. And to add to that, and this kind of goes along with the previous questions, you spend typically your first 2 years in college taking more general education courses, which may sometimes seem like a real slog. For instance, I have very little interest in math, but I still have to take math classes. You have a language requirement to add another skill. Maybe you don't know that you want to teach a second language. You do philosophy classes. You do intro to political science. And so the first 4 years, or first 2 years of the whole 4-year proposition, that really helps expose you to a whole selection, a whole palette of different things. And then once you kind of hone in on what you want to do, then the remaining 2 years of college and grad school beyond, if you choose to do that, that's more in your field. So the first 2 years of college, I took English, biology, Spanish, math, all of it. But the final 2 years were mostly political science, public policy, and government classes.
Cool. Sidlali asks, do you have any suggestions for someone who wants to major in psychology? What schools do you recommend? You know what? If it's okay, I'll take that one. Psychology is one of the most common majors. You can't go wrong anywhere you go. But one thing I will say is that when you're thinking about where you're going to choose a college, there's a lot of different factors. We covered that in class this week. Some of them, of course, is academics. Campus culture is a huge part. And then also like career services and scholarships and financial. There's costs and benefits to the cheaper price tag of public school versus the more expensive price tag of private school. For me, I am still paying off my private school tuition for my undergrad, but I don't regret it at all because I honestly didn't have like the family like practical support and the life skills and the study skills at that point in my life to have successfully gotten through public school. I went to public school for grad school, and it worked out for me because I could figure it all out. But a lot of times it kind of felt like I was going it alone, sort of like when you do self-checkout at the grocery store. There's like not really anyone there to hold your hand and tell you like, look for this scholarship, look for that scholarship. Like you just have to like go on these Easter egg hunts and try to come up with the money. Whereas when I went to Notre Dame, it was taken care of. I got a folder with paperwork. I filled out the things with my parents' tax info, and they gave me a paper back that said, we're covering this cost, and this is what you have to figure out. And it kind of was all done. So I'm saying all this to also answer the thing about psychology, to say that there are lots of really good programs. However, I would say use the ebook that I made available to you guys, the Princeton Review 385 Best Schools 2020, because there you can get into looking into more specifics. Like, are you interested in neuropsychology? Are you interested in like psychopathology, counseling psychology? Because once you get to that next level, if you're thinking about where you'd want to go to graduate school, because honestly, for any of you guys, and you all like want to strive to be professionals, because that bachelor's degree gets you something. It gets you like a pretty solid foothold to always be able to find a decent job. But if the money is in grad school and the real stability is in having a master's at this point, because that's the way the economy works now. It used to be having a diploma was enough, and then having that bachelor's was like, oh yeah, you're set. But now to really be kind of like set, you need like a master's or something. So any other thoughts on that, Zach?
Not particularly. I think my experience was the inverse of yours. I went to public school for undergrad and a private school for graduate school. But much the same, when I went to graduate school, it was very helpful. First of all, that I was only taking classes that I was interested in, but they also laid it all out. And really, it was kind of I just had to do the work, show up, and give out effort.
Mm-hmm. Julieta, how did you know what you wanted to do for the rest? Maybe Zach, I would say if you could maybe touch upon at least just briefly your existential dread and identity struggles, because I think that honest partially like plays into how that all worked out.
Well, it's asking what you want to do for the rest. I don't even know if I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, to tell you the truth. It's a very demanding job, and some days at the end of the day, my brain feels like soup that is going to drip out of my ears. And I deal every day with very successful people who may have very big egos and are very sensitive to how they're portrayed in public. And I have to make sure that I balance that well. But for me personally, growing up, I didn't feel like I always fit in. I didn't feel like I was always part of the team. Sometimes you kind of puff up your own image to compensate for skills or features or experiences that your friends have that you might lack. So I think the first part, the very first thing you need to do to get on the path to some career is just be yourself. I mean, until you can, accept who you are and be real with your friends, be genuine and show up in a authentic way, you're just going to have more stress in your life, and it'll impact you mentally. It'll impact you emotionally. It will prevent you from pursuing experiences that may actually benefit you. So, be yourself. And I would say that the people you are today, you're not going to be the same person in a year, 2 years. You're going to enter high school and leave it as a completely different person. You'll probably change in college. People you're friends with now, you might not be friends with in 2 years. You might not know the friends and the contacts that you'll meet in college. It's just everything changes. So the best thing you can do to make sure that you're successful as the people in your life, people come in, people come out, and experiences change, is be yourself. The only consistency, you need to be consistent with yourself in order to be successful and present for the swaths, the groups of people that you're going to encounter, and the different careers that you'll have access to. So that's my advice to you, to all of you, is to show up, be yourself. Don't be afraid. If people have a problem with you, tough for them.
Yeah. I was reflecting on that yesterday because I was chatting with a former student. I taught him when he was a sophomore, and now he's getting ready to graduate from high school. And he was like saying, "Oh, you're one of my favorite teachers," and it was weird because I know that that's not always the case. Some of you like me. Some of you really don't like me. And what I was reflecting on is that the very thing that some people hate about me is the thing that other people like. So at the end of the day, I realized I just have to do my best to be myself and try to do right by everybody and seek the good, and then kind of meditate to let other things go. Because we're all going to find that the very qualities that some people love in you are going to be the other things that really annoy people. Because that's just how life is. So the only thing you can do, like Zach said, is be yourself and go with it, and find the people who support you, and learn to not hold on to and really grip onto the things that people say that are negative. But then at the same time, also kind of approach it with some curiosity to find what the little bit of truth is in the saltiness. Abigail asks, do you think that college is the road to success, or do you think you can be successful without college?
College is a road to success. You can absolutely be successful without college. But again, it all comes back to the metaphor of the raffle tickets. For me personally, I found that college has given me more raffle tickets. Other people might not have the same experience. And again, it also comes back to what your vision of success looks like. And not everybody's going to have the same vision of success. So, yeah, I mean, college is a pathway to success, but you can't just get a college degree and expect that it's going to take you up the mountain to the pot of gold on the other side. You have to actually use what you've learned. You have to apply the experience that you gained in college. You have to go out and do stuff with your degree to truly achieve the maximum value of what you've invested in. It might not feel like an investment on the front end, but once if you're repaying loans years later, you'll realize college is an investment. It was an investment, and if you're like me, you may find that to be a worthwhile investment.
Awesome. Paola asks, what do you think are the secrets behind getting where you want to go?
The secrets behind getting where you want to go. Well, first you have to know where you want to go to really dive into the secrets. I think a couple things. One, we've been talking about for a half hour now, the actual educational experience, the degree. That's one component. It might not be a quote unquote secret, but number two, you should research careers. You don't know what you don't know. So the best thing to do if you're considering a specific field or a specific career, try to find people in your life that are in that field. Talk to them about it. See, what their pathway to success looked like. I think just more broadly with interpersonal skills matter a great deal to achieving success. And I think a lot of times secrets to success are not that complicated. In my job, every single sentence that I write, I have to consider how my boss will interpret it, how the media will interpret it, how my boss's adversaries could interpret it, how I will interpret it, how my family will interpret it. And that's just one sentence. So that using that really comes down to empathy. Everything you say in your life, everything you do, consider for a moment how somebody might interpret that, how it might affect them positively or negatively. Are you saying the right things that will help foster a good dialogue, a conversation, or is what you're saying not particularly helpful in any situation? Because there are many different types of people in this world, and there will always be a new way to look at what you're doing. So yeah, I would say be mindful of what you're saying, how you're acting, and how it's affecting other people.
I would add on to that, to get where you want to go, a couple things that you need, like Zach said, like know where, do your research. I also heard like interpersonal generosity. Like, I think that's a really important step to get where you want to go. In many fields, it's not about what you know, it's who you know. And so you have to make yourself know. So that's one thing that like I think is really good for you guys to remember as you're going into high school. Your high school teachers are going to be writing you letters of recommendation. And if they don't know you because you kind of are just like vanilla in class, like you don't participate, or if you're outright salty with them, you're going to get a real vanilla letter of recommendation that doesn't say much. So if you need people to know you so that they can advocate for you and build your case, but you got to let yourself be known. And then the other thing is willingness and discipline. Like willingness to grind, like willingness to say no to social things at times, because like you know that you have these other goals, like willingness to travel, like to go where the jobs are if it comes down to it. And then discipline, like just like in the same way, if you're like trying to get better at soccer, like you don't always want to practice, you don't always want to go for a run, but you do it because of that greater goal. So in the same way, like sometimes you just have the discipline to know that like you don't feel like studying right now, and it's okay to do things that you don't feel like doing, because that's kind of like where success comes from. Yeah, I don't know, because like people say like find a job that you like and you'll never feel like you're working a day of your life, and that's not true. Like work is work, but it's good. The difference is like being in the job that I chose, that didn't just choose me and that I'm not just doing so that I can keep a roof over my head, means that like when I'm working, I know that what I'm doing is valuable, and I feel like I am not wasting my life. I'm not wasting my time, and I'm doing something to somehow possibly make the world a better place. And so I sleep better at night that way.
I would say another maybe secret is just learning how to work with and deal with other people. In high school, you're probably going to have teachers who were born in the 50s. You'll have teachers that were born in the 60s. You'll have teachers that were born in the 80s who may not understand your generation, and you may not understand their generation. And you'll experience that in the workplace as well in your professional careers, but learning how to properly bridge the divides that may on the surface seem like they're going to prevent you from being successful, being able to bridge those and work together in a good faith way, I found to be important.
Yeah, Got to be cooperative. One of my favorite quotes is, what's more, or it's kind of a question, what's more important, being right or being effective? A lot of times it's just about being effective, and being right isn't always the most important thing. Paola also asks, what do you guys love about your job?
I think about this a lot. There are definitely parts about my job that I dislike. But overall, it's hard for me to know that one day I won't be in this job. When I come to work every day, I meet people that I've never met before, that come not only from all over the country, they come from around the world, to share their views, their ideas, to have productive conversations, to really hash out disagreements and find ways that we, not only as a country but as a global society, can continue to be successful. And that's very special to me. I mean, I come to work and I see people that, as a high school age or an early college age political science nerd, that I saw on TV all the time. And I think of them in one way as they appear on television, and then I interact with them and I talk with them, as a person, and you find that they're completely different. There's, in my job, there's always something new every day, because again, time is always moving forward. News never stops. Government policy never stops. I mean, even now we're all working from home, but the House of Representatives will be voting remotely next week. So, I'm fortunate to have gotten where I am. Again, a first generation college student. I took out student loans. I briefly was working at Starbucks, substitute teaching high school, and driving for Lyft and Uber to save up enough money to actually move here on my own. So I get a sense of personal satisfaction having, put in the blood, the sweat, and the tears, if you will, to get here. But then also every day, I just feel fulfilled at work, because I get to talk to people with different opinions, and that's one of my favorite things. We get to do it in a professional way. It's special, because when most people have disagreements, you picture a Thanksgiving dinner with your aunts and uncles who may think differently than you do, but we do it in my job as our jobs. So we have to actually have conversations in good faith, be polite, convince people of our views, be convinced by other people's views. There are dozens of different life experiences. If I have a meeting with, a teacher versus if I have a meeting with a business owner or somebody who runs a labor union, that's just 3 different life experiences. And there are probably hundreds more out there that I do not personally have experience with. So I have to listen a lot. I have to, pick their brains and have a productive dialogue. And I think my ability and our ability as a body in my job, that's very special. I think it happens in few other places, and it's something that I value.
Some things that I love about my job, thinking about it like in light of the California Career Zone quiz that you took last week, is I'm listed as like my dominant characteristics are social, artistic, and enterprising. And like I see that in teaching secondary ed English. Like the social and enterprising part to me are that combination of long-term partnership and mentoring with you guys, with students, that like we've been on this journey all year since July, actually since like that one random day at the end of last school year when I had you guys for one period and we like barely knew each other. And it's so weird to think back to that moment when like I could barely remember all y'all's names. But now I can look at one pair, without even seeing your name on it. And I can know if it's your writing or if it's not your writing. It just happened to me the other day because, right, there's like some of you with multiple names, like there's a Jose and a Jose, or a Brianna and a Brianna. And I went and I was looking at somebody's blog post, and I was like, whoa, what is this? And then I realized it was the wrong person, and then it all made sense. Like I love that. getting to know your writers' voices. Another thing I love about teaching secondary English, whether middle school or high school, is just seeing development in you guys from the beginning of the year to the end. That's something that's especially cool given that you guys are a little bit younger, right? In eighth graders, you guys grow a lot more over the course of a year than a senior in high school would. They're kind of like already, developed, so to speak. Like their voices aren't changing. And then I just love reading great sentences. There's just a pleasure in like the beauty and the power of the written word. So it's like really moving and inspiring. Like when you guys sometimes just write like a bomb sentence. It's so cool to see that happen. And then the other part about teaching in lesson planning and design that's a little bit kind of like artistic and enterprising, you could say, is like doing this in this Common Core era, is that I'm putting texts together in a purposeful way. And so it's sort of like the same way that I love cooking and I love thinking about how elements on a plate go together and then how I'm going to plate that. So in the same way, if I'm picking like a poem and then we're going to read an article and then we're going to read a story, like it's just a very fun and interesting process for me to find those texts and think about ways that they could possibly end up fitting together to give this like higher message, or you can find the red thread, so to speak. But then the really cool part is in watching you guys discover those connections. So that's a little bit about what I love about teaching. The other part is that it's kind of like the middle management in that like there's not like my other boss in here all the time. Like Ms. Ludan isn't always in every call. So, we kind of get to do our thing together. And then sometimes there's like bigger school functions, but I like that a lot of times, like, like students and teacher, like we're just kind of like vibing and doing our own thing. And I like that, like sort of creative freedom part of things. Yeah. All right. That is the last question. Zack, thanks so much for your time. If anyone else has any questions, you can just write them in the chat, or you can email me or message me on Teams, and I can always pass that on to Zack, and then I can let you know. Any final thoughts?
No real final thoughts. Like you said, if you think of anything that you'd like to ask me, or you have any questions particularly about what I do, just let your teacher know and she can give me those. Thanks for listening. This is a very unique time. It may not seem like it's all that interesting, or it may not seem like it is history in the making, but I promise you it is. In 20 years from now, you will remember this time watching a guest speaker on your laptops, and it will be, every generation has something. The Pearl Harbor, the September 11th attacks. You guys will remember COVID. So keep on doing good work.
And I'll say that, like, if any of you guys end up like going on a family trip to DC or something like that, if we can end up planning, like a CBLCC trip to DC in the future, Zack is always willing to give Capitol tours and to help arrange, White House tours and all that kind of stuff. So know that if you guys ever find yourself heading toward DC, you have an advocate there.
Yep.
Think so.
And that
cool.
That's always good to have. So thanks for listening, everybody. Study hard.
All right. Peace
bye.
out, guys. I see a couple of you are still on the call. Oh, Emily, do you have any questions about your work or blogging or anything like that that you want to ask now that it's just a couple people? No? Okay. All right, Emily. Well, if you can hear me, if you're still on this, just let me know if you have any questions or if you can think of anything that I can do to help. Okay, bye.